Welcome back to another episode of Reversing Glass. I'm Matt Rose, Field CISO at ReversingLabs. Today's episode of Reversing Glass is called Smart SSCS, or Software Supply Chain Security. A lot of talk about software supply chain security. There's a lot of different vendors, a lot of different approaches to software supply chain security. Everything from scanning components to scanning a running application to looking for malware. But one to really kind of shine a light on the best way or a more effective way to actually accomplish secure software supply chains. So I have this big less than sign, it looks like. I am not less than SSCS. This is just an initial representation to start. But when we're thinking about developing software, we have all these things that are happening pre-compilation. You have a bunch of developer teams, development team 1, development team 2, development team 3, all writing code. Well, they're all working in their own native environment, developing code, checking into a repo. I'll just put an R here. And then the repo is basically the housing of, homegrown code or third-party code. And then all of that is basically orchestrated and delivered by CI, CD. Then you have binary repos, all these things that are happening. And a lot of people are talking about software supply chain somewhere in this ecosystem. But just by this little quick diagram, you see there's a lot of stuff happening. You could talk about software supply chain issues being introduced in a developer IDE or via a plugin within the IDE. Someone could compromise the code repo, insert malware into the code repo, so it's just picked up by the CI orchestration layer. Then you have basically the deployment options. There's a lot of different things happening, and there's a lot of different software supply chain risks or techniques, which is just, I'll just put this scanning a component, such as open source packages. A lot of people think that software supply chain security is solved by software composition analysis. Well, that's just one piece of the puzzle. You have all these things happening. You have homegrown code, COTS code, open source packages, all these different things happening. Another one is securing the tooling itself, and I'll just do a little area of CI orchestration layer. Let's make sure that the tooling that's built or building the software or application is secure. You have limited access to it. It's basically monitored for threats or attacks or things like that. That's another lens. Then you have different aspects of all these type of things, and you're trying to do many different activities to make sure that your software supply chain is secure. Well, let's pause for a second and think about it. Would you rather do all these things? Okay, let's say we did a great job of preventing malware being introduced by a developer, or a compromise of the code repo, or a compromise of the binary repository, or a compromise of the build systems, kind of like what happened with SolarWinds when the MS build system was compromised. Or do you want to work smarter? Do you want to have smart software supply chain security where all you have to do is one thing? Yes, all these checks are important. Scanning source code, scanning open source packages, making sure the tooling, the CI orchestration tooling is secure. Or, and I like to use this as a Christmas package, or just look at the package. It's the final check. You can do all these things on the left, but when you get to that inflection point of a built artifact, a WAR file, a jar file, an ISO, and then it's, we're going to do a V coming out this way to your cloud environment or your data center. The thing you need to look for are malware, and if you don't know what to look for, you won't find it. So if one of these things was misconfigured, and there's a ton of them, everything from writing code to binary repositories to the tooling itself, if one of these things was improperly configured in terms of risk, you may have an issue. So if I was trying to work smart with limited resources, budget, time, I would basically focus my software security efforts on the package itself. Software supply chain security is a big topic. There's a lot of different things happening, but I would focus my attentions on the package to reverse engineer that and find out, hey, did something slip in at some stage of this big funnel that we're building over here? This is the inflection point. And then a lot of people are saying, well, we'll look for vulnerabilities, once it's deployed into the cloud or once it's deployed into the data center. Again, more activities, more things you have to do. So smart software supply chain security is looking at the compiled package to verify malware, compromise of secrets, questionable behaviors, even what goodware is in the application. If a goodware all of a sudden becomes a badware, you have a 0-day type of vulnerability. Hey, where does that exist in my compiled package that I'm deploying? Food for thought, smart software supply chain security is what I feel is the best way to do it by looking at the binary itself. Hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm Matt Rose, Field CISO at ReversingLabs. Have a great day, everybody.